drivers right there. We have 6 people that have taken the class and are waiting on training. Okay, so that's good as well. There's another 6. And then we have another 4 from previous classes and training waiting to obtain their CDL permit. So in the mix, in the mill right now are about 20 people that have the potential to end up driving for us. And so we continue to see good numbers. We are down a little bit on our current number of bus drivers, which as of today is 612. But we continue to move forward. These efforts, Aaliyah Flowers is our staff member dedicated to doing this, and it's really paid benefits. So we've got a lot of things in the mix. Our goal, I think I've shared with you all before, that when we start school in August, is to have 630 drivers. That will give us about the same level of service that we have right now.
Can we plan on in August kind of getting a report on if the retention tools that the board has voted on, if they're being effective?
Sure. We can certainly do that. And turn it over to Dave to talk about the new projects.
Sure. So the 4 new schools that are opening up this summer, we're in good shape for all of them to open. I'll start with Bowling Road, and we have our TCO, which is a temporary certification of occupancy. Staff is scheduled to move in mid to late July, and furniture and equipment that is scheduled to also start in early July. That school opens in August 25th. So they're all sequenced so that we have time on that. Fountain Grove High School, it's also a traditional calendar, August 25th start. We're anticipating a TCO, that certificate of occupancy, at the end of June, early July timeframe. Staff would be moving in, we expect at the end of July, and furniture and equipment would be mid-July. The Pleasant Plains Elementary School, that's a year-round school. We already have our TCO on that. Furniture is already being moved in. We do expect staff to move in June 20th. And again, that school starts July 7th. And then Rex Road, also year-round, we have our TCO. The furniture is being moved in, staff moves in next week. Like I said, we expect all schools, and that school starts July 7th. So we expect every school to open up as expected. There will be work that carries on. We'll be doing punch list work, we'll be doing warranty work. And some work will just continue on to be maybe off-site or some site work, but we, like I said, expect every school to be open.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. From the maintenance side of things, hiring has been pretty flat. We filled a lot of our positions. We still have a small vacancy amount. We meet monthly with Human Resources and our recruiter, who's been extremely helpful in getting positions filled. We're finally able to move some of the focus away from HVAC because we're mostly full in that shop, and we're trying to fill up our grounds department and some other fire alarm shop, things like that, other critical positions.
Hang on a second. Are you telling us that we're almost full in HVAC positions?
I'm saying that we are more staffed than we've been in quite a long time. We do have a lot of new people, a lot of craftsmen, but extra hands are extra hands. And as they learn and they develop, they've been extremely helpful. We're developing plans to partner them with other experienced craftsmen and chiller technicians throughout the summer to really kind of get them up to speed and get them a lot of experience very quickly. But yeah, we're doing pretty good.
But that doesn't mean that we have the number of staff that we need.
I know.
I just want to clarify that.
Well, that's step one, is filling the available positions that we have, and then step two will be seeing if we can develop some more. I wanted to talk for a second about, some notable systems that we have under repair. We're here at the end of the year. We're trying to make it into the new fiscal. We have Brassfield Elementary, which has been in the news, and we had to dismiss yesterday. We have a water quality problem over there. It's groundwater. We've had some scaling on some of our systems. It's not an easy, hey, take that thing out and fix it. We're working with our chemical treatment people to try and get that taken care of, all while managing the system so that the kids can stay in school. So I wish it was a motor or a fan or something like that we could just get a new one and throw it in. It's going to be a bit of a process, but we're also pricing replacement parts if this doesn't work, which will have to happen sometime over July 4th weekend or week because they're a year-round school. So we're going to do everything we can to keep them in there and keep them comfortable. We're actively managing that project with energy management staff almost around the clock. The Leesville campus, we lost a very expensive drive for one of the chillers over there. There's only 2 chillers that do all 3 campuses. So we moved a temporary in place. Once we get new funding, we'll procure those materials and get that thing put back together. But the temporary machine should hold us without a problem.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said there's 2 chillers for all 3 campuses?
Yes.
Should we have more than 2 chillers for 3 campuses?
It was by design. Typically, we have a bunch of redundancy over there in these 2 chillers. There's very large water-cooled chillers, but the campus was designed that way. I should hedge my comments. One part of the high school, called the Murphy Building, has its own standalone air-cooled chiller, but the high school, the middle school, and the elementary are all constructed as a master plan or together with these 2 main plant chillers in the middle. It's great for efficiency. It's tough when something breaks. But we do have, we have the luxury of having some temporary machines in on our yard that we can run out there and hook up and leave for an indeterminate amount of time. So should be good. The last thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is Reedy Creek. At that campus, we have a forced main for sanitary, and the lift station is having difficulty. We worked with the town of Cary. We have a capital project that was already out there working on that system, and now we're trying to determine why it's not pumping. So in the meantime, we have instituted some temporary pumping and hauling. We've shut down the use of that campus for the summer for rentals and whatnot in order to try and keep costs down until we can get those repairs made.
Is that elementary or high school?
It's elementary and middle.
We have a question.
Middle Creek?
Reedy Creek.
Reedy Creek, I'm sorry. Okay.
Gordon.
Yes?
What is the process for schools that are multi-track year-round, but are having a lot of issues, because students are always in the building? I heard you mention.
Let me ask.
Okay, go ahead.
I know where she's going. Should this be under the work order process, which we have later on, or is this separate?
Not exact. No, I don't
Okay,
think it.
then
I don't
please.
think it is. So if you want to finish.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you mentioned, you just mentioned a school that you're going to have to work on during the July 4th week because they are a multi-track year-round school. I guess, I have so many questions around this, but I guess my main question is, because obviously if there is work being done during the 4th of July week, that is more money, correct?
Correct.
Because it's a holiday week.
Yeah, it can be more expensive. So to answer your question, we look for long weekends, we look for teacher work days. If we have to do anything major that takes down part of the system, we have to look for opportunities, or we have to do it at night. It's one of the kind of few drawbacks of having a year-round school is we don't have a time when it's empty to go in there and do major repairs. Luckily, that's not the norm. It doesn't happen an awful lot, but when it does, it's extremely inconvenient. We have to be very creative to get in there and get it done.
If you have a lot of questions around this, then please don't hesitate to set up a meeting with Emma regarding.
That might be the best.
And that might be a good, also a topic to bring is kind of how we work on schedule year-round, and what do we do contingency plans to kind of show the report.
Sure. And if needed, we can run through the maintenance 101 presentation, either, directly or as a presentation here as we've done in the past. Other than that, we're just trying to put together our processes for the summer, how we can dedicate people despite the fact that we have, 40-plus schools that are going to be year-round, how to take care of the 150 that aren't there so that they don't come back to the same issues that they left with. That's our goal. We're waiting on new funding to repair a handful of issues with elevators and sprinkler repairs and some other building systems. It's all lined up, so we're doing our best as soon as July 1st hits to start to hit the ground running and make a lot of necessary repairs.
Yep. I know we are a little behind, so we'll get moving in a second, but I do want to, I don't know what the process would be, but we all get HVAC calls or emails, and so I'm wondering if we can come up with a process so we are told when an HVAC is fixed at a school, right? Like I had Joyner and I got a couple of different emails. I don't actually know, and I'm not calling the principal and I don't want to bug you, but I'm sure notification goes out to families, I would think, hey, the HVAC is up and running, we're good to go. If we can be notified as board members, so we can help communicate that, that would be great. And that's for you guys to figure out a way to communicate.
I think maybe there's some options and different pathways to accomplish what
Yeah.
you'd like to see, so I can think of a couple right now, but let us kind of think that through and come up with the best way to do that. I know there's several different ways.
That'd be great. Any other questions? Thanks, guys. Come on. Oh, motion to approve the minutes from last meeting. Do I hear one?
Yeah, I motion.
Okay.
Second.
Gordon, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thanks for reminding me. Deegan, what's happening? Just you?
Yes.
All right. So you all know we started the food share program, and the first pilot has kind of come to an end. I mean, it's still going, but kind of that initial.
Phase one, we'll call it,
Phase one.
yep. Phase one has,
Hoping to move to phase 2, so let's hear it.
yeah, great. Well, thank you for letting us come today and give you guys a few updates. We certainly want to thank you for allowing us to start with this pilot program and to bring all this information to you. So we are hoping to give you a few updates on the program as well as to share some data that we have collected and actually hear feedback from the schools as well as some direct feedback from the schools. We have a few wonderful guests from 3 of our pilot schools here with us today. And then we also want to share our plans coming into the 2025.
Can the guests come on up?
You want them up?
Yeah, just come on up, whoever from a school. Join us at the table, please, because you're going to have to do it anyway.
There's a lot of us. You want all of us.
Yes, I do. Love having guests.
And actually, I am going to adjust the order of my slides to allow one of our guests to speak early, if you don't mind, if she needs to get back for end-of-day duty. And this is Wafa Ben Raba from Dillard Drive Magnet Elementary, and I'm so thrilled to have her here, as she is one of our wonderful instructional assistants at Dillard Drive and has been very, very active with the SHARE program in the cafeteria, breakfast and lunch. So, Wafa, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and hear your thoughts about the program.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. So, I'm going to start with, we are so glad to have that our school is one of the pilot schools. It changed a lot since we started the program in our school. And so since I work quite close to students in lunch duty as a member in lunch duty crew or in the classroom, so I'm going to share the experience with students. So one of the experiences, we have students who bring lunch from home in the cafeteria and they're still hungry. So they look at the car, they find some extra food, they go grab it. There is another student who eats school lunch, they're still hungry, and then they ask for extra food. Also, in the classroom, most of the grade levels from kindergarten, because sometimes I always substitute in different classes. So most, they ask for snacks, especially in the afternoon. So they always have extra resource of food. So they ask to go to the office and grab extra, any type of an open packed food, like from the fridge or from the pantry car. Also, we have parents, like what I'm saying is like we experience these moments. So we have parents come into the office with a lot of siblings of the students, and then they saw a pantry cart with bananas and carrots. So they get a food for each one of the kids. And she was like asking like the idea, so we have to share, like this is awareness for the program. And also, so we have a lot of great feedback from parents. Some they send them to the principal, some to us. We discussed also this program, but the parents, they were very satisfied. Like when they saw, like we because before we started the program, we have as I work at lunch duty like 2 times mostly the day, and then I see another staff member a lot of food thrown on the trash. So before we started the program, we had the idea, and we have, when Ms. Proctor, she said that we have a program that we reduce the waste of food, and we were so excited, all other stuff. So it was a great impact, and we benefit from extra source of food, and we reduce the waste of food. And thank you so much, and we will love to continue with the program for next year as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Feel free to stay or leave whenever you need to.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for.
Hey, dismiss on duty. So yes, and we'll hear from a few other schools in a minute. Next slide, please. Great. So I just wanted to quickly review our goals. I think most of the people in the room were here, but just for a quick reminder, SHARE is the Stop Hunger and Restore Earth program, and our goals are to reduce the amount of food being thrown away as waste at schools, our prepackaged food, to establish that food recovery program, to distribute items to students first, and making that available to any student in our schools, to increase student engagement around awareness of hunger and respect for the environment, and then to be respectful of the resources coming from our Child Nutrition Services Department. So we were very excited to begin with our 8 pilot schools we'll call Phase 1, and we started on March 7th with Lincoln Heights Elementary. So here's our list again, and we do have representatives today from Dillard Drive, from Lincoln Heights, and from Millbrook. Just a quick review of our physical setup for the program and showing you some images from our program itself. We have the SHARE collection cart, the image on the left that's stationed in the cafeteria during meals, and then the fridge and pantry cart, which are on the right there in the picture, that are stationed in a central location throughout the school, whether that's the front office or the guidance counselor suite. And then students are able to access those items throughout the day, throughout the week, and we'll get into a little bit more about what our schools are seeing in the next slides. Just a quick review again of the recoverable foods. We have our 4 categories: the packaged foods, the fresh fruit, cold foods that are not time and temperature controlled for safety, and then also our condiments and utensils. So when we looked at measuring the program, we knew that it was important to kind of create a picture for what we were seeing. And so we looked at collecting both quantitative data, and we did that utilizing volunteers in our pilot schools that collected data during breakfast, during lunch, tallying the number of items donated per category. And then we also focused on obtaining some qualitative data, and we did that through pre- and post-implementation surveys that we conducted with our SHARE program administrators at each school, which again are our primary contacts at each school, as well as we knew that it was very important to get information from frontline staff in the cafeteria during meals. So we did provide a survey to our staff in the cafeteria to provide some feedback as well. So some of our data highlights, and some of you may have seen some of these statistics already, or these numbers, but I wanted to pull out a very successful first day at Millbrook Elementary where we collected 18 juice cartons, 65 bags of carrots, 50 bags of apple slices, and 25 packages of graham crackers. All of that food was eaten later that day or the next. None of that went into the trash. At one breakfast at Lincoln Heights Elementary, we were there when the students donated 26 bananas during breakfast, and then 12 of those were eaten right there and then in breakfast by other students, and 14 went to the SHARE pantry cart, and those were later consumed again by students. At Poe Elementary, I was there myself when a student came in late to the office. She had missed the breakfast line in carpool. So she was able to go to the refrigerator and get a bag of apple slices and a juice carton kind of to start off her meal for the day. At Kingswood, we were there when a student stopped by in the afternoon, and she did not have a classroom snack, was asking for, to see what was there, went in, was able to get an applesauce cup and a spoon. So early data is showing across the board, and again, we do have some small pilot schools and we have some larger pilot schools, but it's really looking like 41 food items donated per day, per school. So across an entire 180-day instructional year, that could be over 7,300 items per school that's coming and going. Okay, so that's feedback that we were talking about. This is coming from our surveys of our SHARE program administrators. And just to give you an idea of who our SHARE program administrators are, of our 8 schools, 4 are principals or assistant principals. 3 are STEM or environmental specialists. That's not correct, that's 2, sorry. 3 and then 2 for STEM and environmental specialists. Class-based teachers are 2 of our SHARE program administrators, and then we have 1 magnet coordinator that's a SHARE program administrator. So it's really pitching in, getting people at the school wherever it's most appropriate based on the individual school. Then they were all telling us that, very similar to what we expected, that students were accessing these donations during snack time as an extra component of their meals after dismissal or after school, and then when breakfast is missed in the mornings. Other feedback, so we're seeing that we asked about how much food was left over at the end of the week, and 4 of our 8 schools said never. They never have any food left over at the end of the week. So that SHARE cleaner position is really easy. There's nothing left to clean, right? There's nothing to go through because it's being consumed. Students are seeking it out, in many cases consuming it immediately. A couple of our schools said rarely, and most of those items were items like graham crackers that could last through the weekend, so there wasn't that concern of having to even work at moving it out the door. And then we do have 1 school, and I'm sure Laura can maybe address that does have leftovers every week. It tends to be hummus, I believe. Always hummus. Hummus. So the shelf-stable
Just so
hummus.
like, because we never have hummus at our school.
Yeah.
It's not part of our menu. It's not part of our menu.
Yeah. So that's interesting, but Laura has done a fabulous job. She is connected with the Emergency Food Bank in Fuquay Arena, and that is being donated every week along with eggs and other things from her wonderful campus. So that's a great connection as well. Some of the comments, then we wanted to pull out a few of the quotes when asked, would you share, what information would you share with another school considering this? It's well worth it. The kids love it. Whatever effort is required, the benefits more than double the effort. And then everyone should do it. There's no reason not to. And that really echoed with us. As I mentioned, it was really important for us to not only get some feedback from those SHARE program administrators, our contacts at the school, but to really ask some questions of the folks that are in the cafeteria that are really doing the brunt of the tasks for the program. And some of that, there's overlap. Laura, for example, is both places. Karen's also, Randy's definitely in both places. But for others, we wanted to make sure we were hearing those voices too. So we do have data from them. You can see from some of these quotes, I'll paraphrase the first one there. I've been extremely pleased watching the program become a part of the students' routine at breakfast and lunch. From the very first day, watching the students add to the carts and seeing our walkers leave the school at dismissal with healthy snacks was a real treat. I love that students can depend on the SHARE cart when they need it. And then the one on the bottom left, I love the SHARE program, and I'm so happy this is finally happening. I'm so thankful that our students have started to internalize the concept of not wasting food, condiments, etc. I think the program has really started to shift the mindset of both staff and students towards conservation. And to me, that is more valuable even than the saved food. So really some great feedback and great responses from everyone. We also asked those same cafeteria monitors, what are some challenges that you're facing with the program? Or what are some desired changes that you would like to see? And really what rose to the top in terms of what we'll call challenges were what we would expect to see with a new program. Some consistency challenges with SHARE program oversight in the cafeteria. Were staff members, the same staff members there every day, reminding students in the same way to donate food instead of leaving it on a tray and quickly dumping it into the trash. Where is the SHARE cart? Sometimes it might have gotten moved in the cafeteria, and so they would have to take a moment to locate it, move it back into its normal spot. those sorts of things. And really, the only drawback to that would be it limits our number of recoverable items. There really aren't any other concerns about program implementation in that way. But all of these schools, we've been able to work with them when they come to us, offer feedback, suggestions, but many of them figure it out. They just roll with the punches and figure out what to do next. Everyone's learning as we go. Other people also noted just the need for ongoing education and support for students and staff, for turnover of staff, turnover of students. Like any program, like our Feed the Bin Recycle program, we know that ongoing education to keep this top of mind is going to be important. So is the importance of communication of support coming from the administrative team all the way down, even from the district level down. We know that hearing about it, talking about it, promoting it is really going to help move this program along like so many others. And when asked about those program changes, really the only thing we heard were that our staff members want a way to recover the milk, the cheese, the yogurt. They want a way to recover the edible peel fruits, the apples and pears. Because now that they're seeing what we can recover, they're seeing all the rest that's still going in the trash. We know that milks and cheeses and yogurts, that's a state level decision. Apples and pears, there might be some other things that, our organization would love to talk with CNS and with this group about options for what we can do with that, how we can still feed our students healthy foods, but give them every opportunity to eat them and not waste them if they decide they don't want them. Excellent. Great, and that takes us to our wonderful guests that are here. Laura, if you don't mind, I'll have you go first. So Laura is the...
Hang on one second.
Yeah,
Can you go back one slide?
absolutely.
I just want to make the point that at the state level, one of the things that I heard as part of this was the concern, and I have a hard time even saying this out loud, of food terrorism. That's what we were told. This is the wording, food terrorism. And that was the wording we were given as to why an elementary school can't, give back some of the food. I'm just telling you what I was told. And so I want to highlight that because I think we asked for examples, and I don't know that we ever got an example of one instance of that actually happening. Hopefully I'm not giving a lot of third graders some ideas if they hear this, but I'm highlighting it because I find it absurd, and I'm sorry whoever I offend, it is absurd that we can't at least do that at the elementary school level. Anyways, I wanted to highlight that. Thank you. Now, please, I'm very excited to hear about from our guests.
Yes, so Laura from Lincoln Heights Elementary.
Excuse me, I have my notes on my computer, so my apologies. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the SHARE program today. Lincoln Heights was thrilled to be the first school to kick off the implementation. Both staff and students have done an amazing job with the guidelines to collect and redistribute food within our school. We have students throughout the day that benefit from the additional items from the fridge and pantry cart that is located in our front office. One area that we would love to see improve is the ability to partner with a local food recovery agency like the Emergency Food Pantry in Fuquay Marina to donate thin-skinned fruits such as pears and apples. We have many opportunities where these are served and students are not eating them. I feel like this is the next step in helping to tackle food insecurity in our community. Also, as the program is expanding, I see this as the perfect opportunity for work with a sustainability coordinator. Hopefully someone will be filling that role soon so that Towards Zero Waste has a specific contact person within WCPSS to communicate with as more schools begin participating in the program in the future. We are so glad that this program has started and our staff, students, and families are 100% behind this. We are also excited that Fuquay Marina Middle School, one of the first middle schools, will begin the SHARE program next year. Our fifth graders can then lead the implementation as rising sixth graders over there next year. So thank you all so much for the program, and we look forward to continuing the work with it in the future.
Karen Proctor.
I'm just going to piggyback a minute on what Wafa said. Our instructional assistants have really taken ownership of this, and they share the concern that Laura mentioned about the thin apples and pears, so that really bothers us still. The other piece that Wafa did not get a chance to speak on was the student leadership. So I just wanted to share a little bit about how we involve our student as leaders for this. I approached our second grade team, and they signed up for a week, and they have students, because our kindergarten students are the only grade that eats in the cafeteria, and so our share carts are movable in the hallways in the morning during breakfast. And we are a global school, and so being zero waste and no hunger and all those SDGs are very big in our school. So the second graders are in charge of rolling those carts among the school in the morning and collecting from the individual classrooms any students who would like to place an item. And then we also have some fifth graders who help at the end of each lunch period bring up the materials to the share fridge, and it just really helps them to make ownership, and they're the ones who are also very concerned at the beginning about the apples, and is there something we can do, can we wash them, can we, and they are seeing that that is a need of that as well. And yeah, we have nothing left over. We put it out at dismissal and it is gone. I have kids who come in late who can grab it when they arrive, and it's just been really effective, both from an adult leadership and then to give some leadership to the students as well.
Great, thank you. Randy?
Thank you. So I didn't think I was going to be able to make it today, but I can, and I spent a lot of time writing these words, so so I thought, if you don't mind, I'll just read from the letter that I had sent. But let me start by just saying good afternoon and thank you for listening. And I'm Randy Jones. I'm the Magnet Program Coordinator at Millbrook Environmental Connections Magnet Elementary, and I'm also the Share Program Coordinator. So I want to express our sincere appreciation for the SHARE program. It's become an invaluable resource in our school community. Each day we're able to recover surplus food from both breakfast and lunch service, and then we redistribute it at the end of the day, and that ensures just nutritious food isn't wasted, but instead it benefits our students. At Millbrook, we consistently encourage our students to enjoy the food on their breakfast and lunch trays. But when there are unopened items left, then they can donate them to SHARE. It's always rewarding to see that those same items, like the bagged carrots or cauliflower, that eagerly picked up by students later in the day. We start our lunches at 10:20 in the morning. Some of our students have just had breakfast, really, and so they're not actually very hungry at 10:20 in the morning, but it's their lunchtime, so they get their lunch, but they're not really hungry enough to eat all of it. And so by having the SHARE program, this allows the opportunity that when they get hungry later in the day, that there is food for them. I mean, it's really interesting to see how many packages of cauliflower kids don't want at lunchtime, but man, they're happy to have it at the end of the day.
All the things I thought I'd never hear.
Right. Just to be able to really redirect the excess food, it reduces waste, obviously, but it also ensures that our kids are just nourished throughout the day. And a well-nourished student is better prepared to engage, to learn, and thrive academically. Now, so I'll be honest that running SHARE is definitely extra work. It's a daily commitment for the small team that we have at Millbrook, and we can't rely on volunteers to help with the management of that. But to be really honest, I mean, it's absolutely worth it. We don't have any problem. It's just overwhelmingly positive experience at our school for kids, for administrators, for families, and it's just really nice that kids who typically don't ever have something maybe to share, now they do, right? And they're happy to do so, and they don't feel at all uncomfortable about sharing, and they have pride in being able to do that and share with others, as well as they're happy to benefit from it at the end of the day. We just bring out all the carts at the end of the school day in various places so that all of our kids every day can have access to this food, and it all goes Our biggest problem is, you got to eat that before you get on the bus. So it's really just been such a positive experience for us and absolutely worth it. Our team, although it's, work for just a 3-person team that does it, we absolutely we would not turn that program away so that it would be something to come off our plates. No pun intended there. So thank you for your time.
So before we keep going, I just want to give my colleagues a chance if they want to have any words or questions at this point. If they don't, that's okay, but is that-
Just thank y'all for coming. It's a long day. So thanks for coming over here and sharing. It's really great to hear your testimony about it.
I think we all feel pretty passionate about the positive impact it's having.
It comes across. Yeah. Thank you.
And obviously, we could not have done any of this without these incredible people and their counterparts in our other pilot schools and the folks that have reached out to us hoping to have the program at their schools as well. As I knew as a parent perspective and in my former professional world too, we have some incredible schools, incredible staff, and we definitely have some sitting here and taking part in this program. It's been really fun for me personally to see that and to work with them. So thank you. I know some of you might need to leave, so when you need to as well, feel free, but thank you so much for your time and coming. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of from there, though, I just wanted to say, kind of where does this bring us? What comes next for the SHARE program? With the early data that we were able to obtain from our wonderful pilot schools, we were able to go back and approach the Lonnie and Carol Poole Family Foundation for a second round of grant funding. We were happy to give all of that information over to them, that 41 food items per day per school, and they were very generous and have given us a second round of funding, and we just learned that. So we also have heard from Wake County government and the Environmental Services Solid Waste team that they would like to partner with the program and provide additional staff hours for us. So combined with the funding and the additional staff hours, we are very excited to be able to maintain our current 8 pilot schools into the next year, because all 8 have asked to continue the program, as well as to expand to new elementary and middle schools, 10 in total, 4 of them being middle schools. So we're very excited with that. I'll have a list up next of those 10 schools. 9 of these schools reached out to us and asked us to begin as a pilot school for the 2025-26 school year. Only 1 did we actually contact, and that was Fuquay-Varina Middle. We did reach out to a few of the middle schools that are in the pathway for our elementary pilot schools, because we knew that there might be an advantage to having those rising 6th graders at the middle school helping to guide and be the student ambassadors of sorts. So we were very excited that Fuquay-Varina was thrilled to be asked and jumped on board very quickly. So those are our lists. The 4 green are our middle schools. Again, pretty well spread out throughout the district, and we're looking forward to getting going with them. 2 of them are year-round schools, and 1 is a modified calendar. The rest are traditional. And then beyond that, kind of just in general, what do we see for 2 to 3 years out for the SHARE program, if we could ask for that? And it would be, again, to expand as much as we can to any interested school in Wake County. We would love to be able to offer this, on an ongoing basis. It would involve partnering with other groups, whether that's the school system or Wake County government, to help with materials and with staffing hours. But that's certainly something that we are wanting and interested in talking about. We also want to remain open to collaborating with other school districts. We have heard from at least 2, if not 3, and had informational meetings with them, very interested in our work and trying to get that in their districts. And then certainly, as we talked about with milk, cheese, and yogurt collection, we do still intend to work on the advocacy component at the state level, getting together with community stakeholders throughout the state and really asking bigger questions about why, how we can make this happen similar to other states across the country. So those are kind of the things that we're working on next stages, but happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions from? So I have a couple. So we entering phase 2, which is fantastic. When should we be looking at phase 3 and giving you time to kind of think about what phase 3 looks like, how it's hard to say, hey, we need you to raise $200,000 to cover all 200 schools. That's not a fair ask from my perspective. And so you kind of talked about what does 2 or 3 years look like. So what does the next year or 12 months look like? And have we thought about, we have some PTAs that have significant amount of money, and how might we engage them without stacking up a bunch of schools on you all to do the, however we do the teaching or the expansion in a, accelerated manner?
Yep. Well, great question. And I think, our current pilot contract is March to March, and so I know that we'll be coming back to this group and early in the new calendar year of 2026 to ask that in terms of the extension. I think that between now and then, and maybe after we get our new schools rolled out between July and early September, that last traditional calendar school will be rolling out in early to mid-September. After that, I think that's a great window to have some additional conversations with the school system, with Wake County government, and with some other stakeholders that we've, in our conversations, been able to identify. I think there are funds out there, and I think there are a lot of opportunities if we can just get a few of those key people to the table and to have a conversation about it. There already is some interest in some other discussions we've been having in other forums that have brought to light some other options and other participants in this kind of program for the district.
And we hear a lot often about people wanting school meals to be more healthy, and this is a way to provide healthy alternatives, extra alternatives for students. If they wanted to donate money or something, how do they reach you all?
Right. Well, thank you for bringing that up, because I failed to mention when I said that we were so thankful to get a second grant from the Lonnie and Carol Poole Family Foundation. We also did just recently start our first fundraiser, or community fundraising for the SHARE program. So we do have an online portal where you can donate through our Toward Zero Waste website, and all of that funding is going directly into the SHARE program for our materials, as we're not paying for staff hours presently. So all of that is available online, and we have raised a significant amount of money by doing that as well. So it will be those funds combined with the grant fund that will help fund our new pilot schools coming online for phase 2, as well as continue to support the existing pilot schools.
Ms. Gordon, you had a...
Yes. Thank you for this presentation. I'm so glad that we are seeing the impact and the desired outcomes of the program. I did want to ask, when you talk about on slide 12, and you talk about the feedback that you received and around like challenges or desired program changes, you mentioned ongoing education and support for students and staff. I tried to go back in my notes from you all's first presentation. When we're talking about sustainable food systems and what we are trying to instill in our students, what type of education beyond the kids seeing the posters and beyond the kids seeing the actual systems there, or a sign that says, put your leftover banana, or put your banana that you didn't eat here. What types of education are we providing for students and staff around, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is the broader impact that we are having on our community and globally?
Right, no, great question. And I think there are probably a few ways to answer that. I think schools are already doing a lot in terms of those components existing in the curriculum, in terms of environmental curriculum, to talk about food waste and what the opportunities are with food waste. Now, obviously not wasting it to start with, and looking at production all the way down to what comes onto your tray and what do you do when you don't want something on your tray. All of that is tied into things that a lot of our schools are doing already. The consistency there, from looking at the differences between magnet schools and more traditional schools, that certainly is something that we can look at. I know too that a lot of our pilot schools for our first phase, our first 8 elementaries, they created their own videos about the SHARE program. These two being ones as well right here in the room. So they took time, and when the program was rolling out, to do a little bit more, and some of them did a deeper dive about why are we concerned about this? Why is food waste important, and what are the options? And so that is something actually that we're going to be working with Wade County Government and Deja Smith over here on are hoping to look at an educational video coming from our from the program organization standpoint to have a share program video that all of our schools could utilize. So we don't have to put all of that responsibility on the schools that are implementing the share program. I certainly think there are ways for us to continue connecting the education around food waste reduction, as then options for sharing tables and composting that some of our schools are doing. All of that work is tied together. All of that is work that our organization is doing on all of those pieces. So we too would love to put all that together more and be able to communicate that to the schools. I know that right now, when we're at our pilot schools, we are having those conversations with staff and with students. When we're in the cafeteria rolling out programs, having those conversations and helping to promote those concepts and help connect all of that with what the kids are learning in the classroom right there in the lunchroom, because that's an extension of their learning environment, and there's a lot that they are learning in those cafeterias. So that's something we can continue to enhance and to pull out as we grow the program.
Yeah.
I have a
go on.
follow-up.
Yeah.
Also, in speaking about the Phase 2 and the schools that are being added into Phase 2, I know you also mentioned that some of the middle schools were chosen because they are natural pathways of schools that already have the share program in place in Phase 1. Mm-hmm. Were there any other criteria that was used for selecting any of the other schools?
9 of the 10 schools on that list contacted us and said, we would like this program. How do we get this program? And so we then had an informational meeting with all of those schools. We asked that a member of their admin team attend that meeting, and ideally a PTA representative. So that was our 30-minute, here's the information about the share program, here is what we would be providing, here is what we would ask of you and how we would partner together. And then they were able to say, yes, we want to move forward, or sorry, this isn't the right time. I actually had 11 informational meetings. Only one school decided that given some staffing changes that are coming up, they didn't want to take this on at this time. They said, please contact us for Phase 3, but they only one of those schools. So all the rest asked to be continued as part of the process after learning about the program. And so then only one school, Fuquay Varina, we sent an email to saying, we are running this program. We would love for you to consider being a pilot school, as a lot of your students come from Lincoln Heights Elementary. And then he said, yes, I'd love to have the informational meeting. So does that help answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And speaking of the middle schools, do you see any kind of difference in your approach with the middle school? Beyond the basics, but
Right.
kind of what messaging are you wanted to convey?
Yeah, and I think it's great. We're so excited to be moving into middle schools to see what differences there might be, and we do have some ideas, and certainly during our informational meetings with the admin team, they were able to give us some suggestions. One piece is just, will our size of refrigerator be large enough? The consistent feedback we got is, these are great elementary school numbers. Our numbers are going to blow these out of the water. And so with that, we have to say, okay, well, between the pantry cart and the refrigerator and the fact that a lot of the food is consumed on a daily basis, there's not a lot always carryover. Are the program materials we have going to be large enough? And so they know right up front that we will certainly be looking at that. This is a pilot for those exact reasons. If we need to do a second fridge, we'll consider that. If we need to do a larger Clearview fridge, we can certainly look at that, and we've already done some research on all of those options, so we'll be ready. So that's one. Also, just student involvement is another, and even enhancing some of the student leadership roles that our elementary schools have already started to do with their students. I think that's going to be an even larger component, an option when you get into middle school, and certainly in high school down the road as well. So we're looking at how to interweave and how to help encourage in student involvement with the operations of the program, as well as just making sure that students feel comfortable accessing the food. So we'll have to gauge kind of that stigma that we're hoping to eliminate or reduce at least with this type of program, and see how that plays out at the middle school level.
Thank you so much.
And I hope at the middle school level, anything left at the end of the day, very different from elementary school, is there's athletics.
Yes.
And those kids will eat that stuff up. I know that from experience. If there is free food after practice, they are going to grab it and eat it.
Yes.
Before or after. So I'm hoping that they take advantage of that if nothing else.
And we have certainly heard, again, during our meetings, that exact point has been referenced for the athletic teams, that it'll be very helpful. And we're just excited because in middle schools, it should be that we can also collect the oranges. So it's going to be bananas and oranges, because my understanding, that if you know differently, let me know, is that the oranges are not scored at the top as they are in elementary school. So we'll be able to collect those too. So one more fruit that we can keep out of the
Fantastic. It warms my heart. Dr. Taylor or Mr. Strickland, anything? If not, that's fine.
Well, I would say I did get a call from a district that I worked for in the past about the program.
Nice.
So it was on the other end of the state. So.
The only thing I'll add is that the feedback that I've received has just been enormous. And so I know that you anticipated success, but I don't know if you anticipated this much success.
We did.
It's been really good, though.
Thank you so much for everything, for what y'all do. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to phase 2 and then phase 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm just letting everyone know we're going to be really efficient with these next 2 presentations. So.
Sure. Messengers. Excellent. All right. Well, in the name of efficiency, let's get started. So, again, I'm Nate Slavic. I'm the Senior Director of Maintenance and Operations. I'm here to give you an overview and a walkthrough of our work order process. Our facilities computer maintenance management system, Maximo, has been in place here at Wake County Schools since 2002, so it's 20 years old. It was launched as part of a broader initiative to digitize and modernize operations, moving away from paper-based tracking and siloed communication. Now a mature and robust platform, Maximo supports daily operations by helping staff quickly submit and track work orders, improving coordination between teams, reducing delays through better scheduling, and ensuring that maintenance issues are addressed and tracked consistently and efficiently. Actually, go back and finish that. Today, the system is responsible for managing a massive footprint, over 57,000 assets at our 200-plus facilities and growing. This includes everything from HVAC systems and lighting to plumbing, roofing, building envelopes components. Each asset is tracked for location, life cycle stage, maintenance history, allowing for some proactive planning and more efficient upkeep. On average, the system processes more than 200,000 work orders per year. These span everything from preventive maintenance and routine inspections to emergency repairs and compliance-driven actions. With this volume, it's critical that the system routes requests quickly and accurately to the right teams, and it does, enabling timely system-wide service delivery. From day one, the system was built to scale in both terms of number of users and system complexity. As our district continues to grow, the system evolves along with it, allowing new assets to be integrated seamlessly into existing service routes and procedures while helping staff manage daily operations more efficiently. Its reliability and adaptability have made it a critical foundation of our entire facilities operation. How to request a work order. There's a few ways that we can do this. Our most user-front way is our service request system. The primary way that users can report facility issues is through our online service request dashboard. Any staff member with access can enter a request at any time. The dashboard also allows users to track status of their progress of their requests, providing transparency from submission to completion. This helps reduce duplicate reporting and ensures everyone stays informed throughout the process. For school administrators, another option to report work orders is by calling or emailing our customer service center. This is especially helpful for urgent and emergency issues. for staff who may not have immediate system access. Our service is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. During school hours, customer service operators are available to take and route calls. And after hours, our contracted security team monitors the line and responds accordingly, ensuring continuous coverage for emergencies every day. Lastly, all maintenance staff can initiate work orders directly. So when they observe issues on site or receive verbal reports while working at a facility, they can enter those into the system on behalf of the school. Types of work orders. So we have 3 types. Preventive maintenance is our first line of defense in keeping our assets running efficiently. These are regularly scheduled tasks like changing filters, lubricating parts, or inspecting HVAC units. And these are performed before issues arrive. The goal is to reduce downtime and extend the lifespan of the equipment and avoid costly emergency repairs. Routine maintenance covers those recurring tasks that we know from experience will need attention. These may not be as frequent or time-sensitive as PMs, but they're just as important. Think of them as proactive check-ins on systems that have known performance issues or wear patterns, like inspecting roof drains, mobile unit ramps, or classroom lighting. Finally, our corrective maintenance is the work that addresses actual problems, either something that's broken or not functioning as intended. This category includes not only service requests and emergency work, but corrective maintenance also includes compliance-driven work. We handle items that are flagged during fire marshal reports, mandates and inspection findings from agencies like the Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Labor, and Department of Public Instruction, and any of the findings that come from our own risk management and safety inspection teams. Each one of those has its own unique category in the system, allowing us to track, prioritize, and report them accurately. This structure ensures regulatory items are not overlooked, and they're addressed with the urgency and documentation that they require. We use a priority scale from 1 to 5 to categorize and manage work orders based on urgency, safety concerns, and operational impact. Priority 5 are our most critical immediate response situations. They include scenarios that pose immediate danger to health, safety, or facility operations, such as system failures or security issues. Examples would be downed HVAC systems, exposed electrical wiring, or unsecured entry points. These require immediate dispatch and rapid resolution. Priority 4 issues are not immediate emergencies, but could escalate quickly if left unresolved. Often they relate to backup system failures or urgent IAQ, indoor air quality concerns. Examples are single room HVAC issues, minor plumbing leaks, kitchen equipment repair, or interior security issues. Priority 3 covers our general maintenance that doesn't pose immediate impact to comfort, safety, or program delivery. Importantly, many of the service requests and compliance-driven work fall under this category, such as items that are flagged during fire marshal or health inspections. Examples of those are lighting issues, damaged ceiling tiles, intercom speaker repair, or dripping faucets. Moving down, priority 2 addresses non-hazardous issues that don't interfere with instruction but still require corrective action. These are often deferred maintenance tasks that have minor impact on the facility, like lighting adjustments in non-critical areas or minor drywall repair. And finally, priority 1 are aesthetic improvements with no safety or operational impact. They help maintain a clean professional appearance and reduce long-term deterioration. Examples are painting, mulching, carpet drywall repairs, and general cosmetic updates. Structure prioritization allows us to triage effectively and stay compliant with regulations and maintain safe functioning learning environments. All right, so here is the work order life cycle. This slide provides a comprehensive overview of the life cycle of a work order, outlining the key stages from the moment a request is received to its completion and feedback. Work orders are initiated through multiple channels, staff, customers, or as scheduled operations through the work order system. This ensures that needs are captured promptly and accurately. Once received, the work orders are reviewed for accuracy, checked for duplicate entries or recurring issues, and assigned a priority level.
Hey,
Yes.
question on that.
Yeah.
Is that done manually?
Everything is done, not everything. Most things are done manually, yes. Do you mean the checking and double checking?
And the triage, and I'm looking at Dr. Taylor because we had a conversation earlier, like, I envision, I'm going to ask another question later, but
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that for now. But
Sure, we can
we're thinking.
definitely explore that.
yeah,
So we'll jump down to planning and scheduling. At the planning stage, department supervisors play a critical role by ensuring that each work order is matched to the appropriate labor and/or resources. After that, our dedicated planning team assumes control of scheduling, leveraging a range of operational criteria, including work order urgency, aging metrics, work proximity, and classification types, such as the regulatory compliance or the customer-initiated service request. All these factors are carefully balanced against the available labor hours to ensure that we have efficient prioritization and the optimal allocation of resources within the constraints of our workforce capacity. We try and put out as much work for the labor hours that we have. Execution's pretty simple. I mean, after the creation of an assignment of the schedules, technicians execute the job according to the defined scope of work. As they work, they record key information into Maximo, including hours worked, materials used, and actions taken. If conditions differ from expectations or require specialized support, the issue is escalated appropriately, and those staff members or contracted services perform the work and complete the work order. Before closing, we ensure that all information is complete, accurate, and documented in Maximo. Once closed, the system will generate a completion email to the requester that includes the technician's notes and the action taken. This life cycle helps us maintain transparency, consistency, and responsiveness, which is essential for managing a large, complex portfolio of facilities and assets. Keeping our customers informed is critical to building trust and maintaining transparency in our maintenance operations. This slide highlights several key communication touch points that stakeholders, that ensure stakeholders know what's happening with their service request and overall facility maintenance. As I just stated, once a work order is complete and closed in Maximo, an automated email is sent to the requester summarizing the outcome, what was done, when, and by whom, providing closure to the original requester. We share weekly maintenance plans with site contacts to provide visibility into what work is planned, allowing schools and departments time to prepare and coordinate if needed. We generate a summary report showing all open service requests for a building, which is emailed to the principal once a month. It provides a big picture view of what's being requested and what has and has not been addressed. We generate new service request confirmation emails when someone submits a new request through a customer service over the phone. They immediately receive a confirmation email with their unique work order number and a summary of the submission. This reassures that the user that the request is received, is being processed, and provides a work order number for them to refer should they require an update. We generate monthly customer service inspections. These are scored and shared monthly with principals or site contacts to ensure accountability and quality and custodial services. It also allows for timely adjustments when service expectations are not met. Each site receives a comprehensive facility fact sheet once a year, summarizing key maintenance statistics, including work order volume, statistical analysis, and comparative work order data from district-wide averages. It's a tool for leadership to understand how well the facility is being maintained. Looking forward, we are developing real-time feedback options for emergency work orders, so stakeholders are updated live as issues are resolved. And we're also developing customer satisfaction surveys to gather feedback from our users, helping us measure their satisfaction and drive service improvements. Our goal is to continue to develop communication tools to help our customers, to make sure our customers are informed, involved, and supported, not just when issues arise, but as an ongoing part of facility stewardship. As we've seen today, our work order and asset management system is not just a tool. It's a foundational part of how we maintain safe, functional, and welcoming learning environments for our staff and students. From the scale of our operation to the structure behind every service request, our processes are designed for efficiency, accountability, and continuous improvement. Looking forward, we remain committed to evolving our systems with live feedback tools, expanded customer communication, and smarter use of data to meet the growing demands of our facilities and the communities that they serve. Thank you for your time, your continued partnership with the work that keeps our schools running every day. With that, I'll take your questions.
Okay.
Thank you. It was actually kind of funny that I was writing down real-time feedback, and then immediately you said that. It's very important, I think, to have that real-time feedback, because I mean, you know, your customer is not only the staff at the school, but also all the students and the parents, and you know, and for the staff at the school to make those critical decisions on what to do in any given time, about, you know, continuing school that day or not because of HVAC failure or whatever. Those are things that the parents have expressed to me, that there was insufficient advance notice for them to change their day, you know, basically.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond the catastrophic also. You know, we have, for every school that we close, we have a whole lot of them that were repaired and stay in school. But in years past, the air coming back on was the signal that you've been repaired. And I think that we need to do a better job communicating that. I know that we're doing a wonderful job with our communications department of letting people know what's happening. And I think the maintenance department is kind of the tail end of this. We're being dragged into the modern communication protocol, whereas, you know, before we were the, you know, behind the scenes, just got done, you know, don't worry about those guys over there. So we're working on that. That's a new initiative for some of our new staff who are coming in. How can we do better at making those real-time updates? Thank you.
Ms. Gordon.
Thank you for this. This is very helpful for me, especially around the prioritization guidelines. I did want to kind of say, and maybe this is a question, maybe not a question, but I know that there are probably a lot of schools who are beyond the emergency, immediate, maybe even urgent part on the priority guideline list. And I know that because there are so many, that it makes it that much more harder to get to those schools. But when we have parents, or when we go into schools and see ourselves, things like riding awning over a carpool lane, or riding ramps on mobile units, or infestation of bugs, or playground equipment coming out of the ground,
80 to 90% of classrooms needing window units where the hose is actually going from a dehumidifier out to the window or to a sink, to a staff bathroom sink, or leaking roofs and ceilings. When we are made aware of these issues, can you kind of help me understand, I guess, what are the first steps that are taken to remedy these issues, given that there are so many, and so many of them they do fall within the level 5, level 4 priority?
Sure. Obviously with the size of our portfolio, we've got varying ages, varying construction, varying levels of maintenance over the years where some things have deteriorated. Our focus right now is to keep the buildings functional, to keep the lights on, the air conditioning working, and to keep them safe. Some of those items you mentioned are things that we're going after, like ramps and whatnot. I mean, those are safety issues, and we try to put a focus on them. But sometimes it comes at a cost of the cosmetic stuff, just from the resource that we have available, the funding that we have available. A bunch of years ago, we used to be able to paint schools, and now that's kind of a rare occurrence. So we try to prioritize HVAC is always up there because it is absolutely necessary for having the kids in the school, keeping the weather outside the building and not inside the building. And then we get to some older facilities that require more and more maintenance, and we do what we can. Even as they're slated for renovation, we're going to maintain them right up to the last day. But yes, we do have deficiencies that still need to be addressed.
So, Mr. Gordon, if I could add to that, and on the 24th of June, at the work session, I'll be sharing the presentation that I did with the commissioners, and I think that will give a good understanding of how we are in our current condition. That is not something that happened overnight. This has been a long process over multiple years, probably before any of us were involved in what we're doing with Wake County now. But I think it'll give a good understanding of how we have come to this situation and what we plan to do to try to get out of this, because it is going to take a concerted effort by everybody to do that. What I will say about the work order system, that I know that Nate, Mark, and I, a few, maybe 6-7 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but we have talked about what we want to see done this summer with different training and understanding of the work order system, because I know board members get information about work orders that have been put in, things that have been taken out and not having been completed, and blah, blah, blah. And so there are multiple parts to that story. And so what we now recognize is that we want to re-educate staff on how work orders are put in. If something is taken out, then why? It could be a multiple work order. It could be something that did not require attention, that was assessed and then completed, and the school may not have known about it. We also want to be able to talk with our maintenance staff to have them to better understand how we give the feedback to schools. If indeed we are taking work orders out that haven't been completed, because if somebody reports that, then there's some level of truth to that. That doesn't mean every situation is like that, but we know that's part of all the retraining that we've got to do with understanding how the work order system works. And when you think about those emergency things that come up, what we can share with everybody, they don't want to hear this, certainly not an excuse, but we haven't had any school to be closed for multiple days. And so when you talk about those emergency issues that come up in that 24 hours, those are the things that we absolutely attend to. And one of the things that I'll be able to share is that there has been a change in terms of how we make decisions to close schools. And as I was preparing for the presentation to the commissioners, I was talking to Lisa. I said, Lisa, is this information correct? from probably 2015 to 2016, I could count the closures on one hand of schools that closed for heating and air conditioning issues. But in January of 2023, it just went like this. And I couldn't figure out why. And so the conditions are the same, but the decision to close, that's something that has happened that now leads to this situation. And I was talking to Chair Haggard, and he was quite candid. And he said, I understand that, when you get the call to say that there's a heat issue and blah, 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 just to let you know. He said, we didn't like it, but we could deal with it. And he said, that completely changes everything. When you now got to come pick your child up, and that messes your schedule up. So everybody got the same message I got yesterday about, 45 minutes to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so these are the things that we want to make sure that everybody understands about the current landscape and what we've got to do to get out of that. And while we know that HVAC issues are a concern, most of those are addressed very quickly, and it's a one-time issue now. I know Brassfield gave us a lot of headaches yesterday, but that's really not what happens on a day-to-day basis. Something happens, the school has to go out, or the staff has to go out, and it's usually something that has to be breached in. But now we know we've got to really think about how we communicate that to our public and what our expectations are, and if something has actually changed within the last 24 months that causes us to do something different. But part of us is the work order system, helping people to understand how this manages the work, and that both the maintenance staff and the school staff, we've got to take a different look at how this helps us manage our situation. But I think it's going to be some great information. Shut up now.
You're doing great.
Thank you. A couple questions. Kind of like Ms. Gordon, hearing the scale of this, I thought gave me a little bit of pause, and so I need some help putting it into context. One of the early slides, you talked about tracking 47,000 operating assets and then over 200,000 work orders per year. I know this isn't spread evenly, but for the sake of comparison, that'd be like over 1,000 per school. That'd be like 3 a day, every day, January 1 to December 31st. So, what constitutes a work order? What's the standard for comparison here? Is it custodial? Is it maintenance? What should that number be? Like between regular wear and tear, or where we've got some real problems? Is there a goal you're shooting for?
That's really just a number. It's everything, all of our preventive maintenance work orders. If we're changing filters on the machine, it's got a work order. So we have some standard things that come up quarterly, and that'll be, some buildings have 4 air handlers, some have 40. And so and there will be a work order for every single one of them, so guys can track their time. We can track that task happened, rather than having one that says change all the air filters for the building. You're imparting a lot of trust that they all got changed, as opposed to, guys are tracking time for each one, and it might only be a couple of minutes. It might be 10 minutes that they're doing their work, but we have a record that now states that for that machine, it was changed quarterly. So we have a lot of preventive maintenance, but again, with all the different activities that we have, if you do a few thousand here and a few thousand here, 7,000 HVAC schedule requests. I know that's a real number. So those are just, hey, I have a PTA meeting on Tuesdays, I need the media center to stay on. So there's a lot of small things that contribute. I know preventive maintenance is also a very big number for us. But again, with 200 facilities and all these different users, it adds up very quickly.
Okay, so it can be as small as a single air filter.
Yes, it could be as small a task as that. If we feel like we need to track the activity specifically, we do. So if we do room inspections, Some of them, if we're doing bathroom inspections, maybe we don't inspect every bathroom. It's a one-time thing. It really comes down to if we ever have to report it or track costs, we'll cut it up a little bit finer so that we can have more granular data.
So like or a smoke detector, each detector would be like maybe a different order?
No, those are, there's no generality about it. If we're going to inspect, especially now, we're paying a third party to come and inspect the fire alarm. It's inspect the fire alarm, and we get the report, and we put all those notes into the work order.
Second question. I'd like to learn more about these reports, because what it looked like there is we have some pretty detailed information. I don't know if that was new, if that's how Maximo's been since the beginning. I saw like school, description, technician, when it was scheduled, right? So if we have all that data, do we have anybody that goes back and runs analytics on it? To see, is there problems with a certain type of repair, or even, not to call anybody out, but like a certain technician or a certain area of the county that maybe is not getting the same service times as other times. What can you figure out from that data?
We have a lot of, as you stated, there's a lot of data available to us. We're in the process of seeing which of those KPIs, the key performance indexes, which of those things are in there are going to really tell us things about our staff and our efficiencies, and we're working on that right now. I think previously we tried to roll that out, and it was not received well by staff. And as you know, when you have a database system like this, it's only as good as the data you put in, and we rely on staff to be complete and be honest, and in order to tweak all of our systems and make it as efficient as they can. I don't want to get to a point where they feel like, hey, I have to check all these boxes this week, and now all of our data is skewed. So I think there are things for management so that we can at least know things and maybe implement different processes. But it's a fine line between staring over staff's shoulder and saying, hey, you're not doing your work. But that's a real thing from time to time.
The last thing, it's probably just pretty technical. I think it was back on slide 3. Can we go back to that? Now, I'm just going to confess, I'm old. So when I see a 7-digit phone number, I'm going to fill in stuff, but is that 919, 984?
It's 919. It's been that way for a long time. I think the idea was to make it as big on the card as possible so that everybody would remember it. I'm in the process of revising those as well. That card has maintained that style for a very long time.
Just pointing it out, I see 984s, I'm like, who is that? And then it takes me a minute to realize that's Raleigh, so. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Just real quick, and then we'll get to the final presentation. So, to Chair Haggerty's point, you have 200,000 work orders, or whatever the number is that comes in. Who is it? I guess let me back up. Who does our tech team oversee this software?
No, this is a maintenance piece of software. It's just in the maintenance department.
Okay.
We use, it's remotely hosted. It's software as a service.
So I'm wondering, sort of, like, you have very specific categories about what's a 5 to a 1, and I'm wondering why we do that manually at this point versus it being, because I feel like that could take a lot of hours.
It does. It does take a lot of hours. You have to be very organized and consistent. All of our shop supervisors, especially those in high volume shops like HVAC, you have to check them every day. Now, given they meet certain criteria, so as they're submitted, generally they will go through our regional maintenance department first, and I guess this is some color that goes along with how this system works, is how our department is broken up. It generally goes through a regional maintenance department first, who are out at the buildings, and they're responsible for a smaller number. So they might be responsible for 8 buildings. So the work orders that come in through those buildings, they evaluate the work orders based on those criteria. There's 25 of those clusters. So, we're breaking up that work a lot. And then those groups would submit it to our core shops if they can't do the work. If the work requires more expertise or tools or skills that they don't have, they'll push it over to the core shops, and at that point, it's already kind of been evaluated. And those guys would then go through it again and say, okay, it's already prioritized, but now I have to say it's going to take one of my guys a couple hours to address that, and they go through each work order, putting their input in on it also.
So where I'm sort of going with that, and I happen to have a conversation with our superintendent today about the tidal wave of AI coming and how it can improve efficiencies in some areas. And so I'm wondering, and maybe this is not, we can, I don't want you to answer this now, but because I got to get to the other presentation. But I'm thinking about, do we have, we have our technology team doing 2 huge tasks right now. And when do they take a look at kind of the software that we use around the county in any department to say, here are some things that we as outsiders look and say, here's how we can improve, save some time, because that's what I'm interested in, improving efficiency, saving time, making it easier, your job's easier. And I immediately envisioned that when you said all that was manual, but yet you have this great system of, if it meets this criteria, here's where it should go. And it's like, if a computer system reads your criteria, hey, it's immediate 5, it goes to the right people, that sort of thing. And so that's where I'm interested in seeing where we're going. But I'm going to pause it there because I'm getting evil looks from Susan and Glenn.
Can I touch on one last thing very quickly?
Yeah.
The superintendent touched on it with things that disappear, they say, or work orders that go away or they're not addressed. And I thought there might be a question about it. I hadn't included it in here. Maintenance works off the oldest work order relative to the repair. And I think where our customers are kind of lose faith in this a little bit is some of our shops have significant backlog, hundreds of work orders. And so things tend to sit sometimes for a very long time. And so they'll put in another work order and say, hey, this is still broken. And those newer ones get canceled, or if we have put time on it, they get completed, but with notes that say, we're going to work off the old work order. This is a technical automated email. I don't know if you read all your automated email, but I don't think our customers read all of their automated email. And so when they get that back and it says completed or canceled or closed, they don't necessarily go in and read notes and say, oh, it's still open, but it's not open under this work order. So I just want to clarify that point. It's a very common thing that I hear about all the time.
Is that also manual? Like you guys see a work order and you go check to see, or is the computer saying they already submitted this?
No, that's manual also. We can have a longer discussion. There is a
we will.
longer discussion,
Yeah.
but for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I got it.
Because this was not. She was
You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. So what we're bringing to you today is we're looking at 27 and 28 and beyond. Recently, we came to you with 2026, 2027 calendar conversions. Lake Myra Elementary was the one that we recently brought to you and you voted on. And so as part of that discussion, you asked us to look ahead so that we can start providing a runway for families. And so what we would like to do today is to just kind of set the stage for what's the process that we use to identify long-term crowding concerns in particular schools, or try how can we be more efficient with the facilities that we have already. Based on the conversation you just had right now, is how can we maximize the facilities that we have already so that we're not adding to the fleet that we currently have, all right? So I'm not going to bore you with the steps. You know all of them. We've been through them multiple times. So we're just going to jump right to step 6.
Great.
And so step 6, the first step, and so I'm going to walk you through these 5 internal steps within step 6 so you can see how we kind of get to where we are today. So the first thing that staff will do is look at capped schools and overcrowded schools in the area. And so who is not being addressed through the capital improvement plan or through recent enrollment plans so that we can try to deal with the crowding in those particular schools. Because capped schools, we hear from you loud and clear. These are not something we want to continue with, so we're looking for options to find ways to pull those off and also better utilize the buildings that are proximate to those capped schools. So here we have a list of the CAP schools for 25-26, and what I did was I put a little marker next to each of them so you can understand how or why, what thought process we use when we look at each of those schools for their long-term success. So the black dots are indicating schools that have been impacted during the 25-26 enrollment plan. And so a lot of times we won't do anything with these schools right away because you're waiting to see how will the stability rules take effect. What will happen with the school choice in that particular area? Are we getting the favorable results that we thought we had intended when we set out in this enrollment plan? And so we kind of put pause on some of those for at least another year or two before we make some long-term decisions. In the magenta color, we have projected to be impacted by the current CIP. So these are schools that may be impacted with upcoming new schools in a particular area or renovations in a particular area. And so in the sense of stability for families, we don't want to make changes today or recommend changes today until we see what kind of changes may take place when we introduce those schools to the CIP for that particular year. And then the green schools are impacted from a previous plan, and I'll add, with favorable results. And so many of the schools may have been impacted with a previous either CIP plan or enrollment plan, but we didn't see the results that we were expecting, and so we may have to revisit those. But some of those schools in green, we've recently made some changes, whether it's through reassignments or a capital improvement plan, and we're expecting favorable results, so we don't think we need to make any recommendations at this particular time for those particular schools. And then blue. These would be schools that there may be proximate seats available surrounding that school. Or we may see a natural reduction in enrollment. And when I say that is, when you look at the size of the 5th grade class compared to the kindergarten class coming in. If there's a large number of 5th graders leaving and we're seeing a trend for the kindergarten classes coming in much lower, you're going to see that natural reduction in enrollment. Go ahead.
When you say approximate seats available, you mean what? Just to clarify.
So the neighboring schools may have available seats that we could look at a reassignment, or they may have renovations done so they'll have expanded capacity that we could utilize.
Yeah.
All right. And so, you know, the normal reduction in enrollment is something that we'll look at too, because again, we hear from you loud and clear. Try to provide stability for families as much as possible. So when we try to, you know, project that ahead, we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way where we're not taxing the school system too much, but we're also trying to take into account that we understand the value of providing families with that stability over time. So then the next section of schools, we're looking at overcrowded schools. So these are schools that don't have an enrollment cap. The criteria that we use here are they're at 110% or greater projected to be crowded for the next school year. And generally that's something that we'll look at every year. And so when you look at these schools, the black marker there shows schools that are magnet schools. And magnet schools are important because, well, you don't want to remove students from the particular base because it's got a base that it draws for the magnet programming. But we can look at transfers in and out of the school, whether it's through magnet seats and or transfers for hardships. So we can look to limit the number of students into the school to deal with the crowding. The pink magenta would be currently impacted by the CIP. Green is a school that we converted to multi-track year-round for 26, 27, and I'll highlight Lake Myra again. And then blue, again, approximate seats available in the area or anticipated enrollment reduction.
So help me understand the blue, because I am tired today, but it seems contradictory. So you're saying that these are projected to be overcrowded, but then the blue says approximate seats available, I understand what that means, at area schools, or anticipated natural reduction in enrollment. So does that mean, is it more of like a, not caution is not the right word,
It's language maybe.
a little
if
more
I can-
flexible or
Yeah.
something? Like not as
So,
overcrowded as the other?
If you'll notice
schools?
sometimes, and I think you're going to show the growth map or not,
Yeah.
the growth map, the areas where we might see some of those little tiny, the itty bitty red arrows in the downward
Yeah.
direction, some of these schools might be in one of those regions where they've built out, they've had their max residential boom, and now everyone's aging in place, and so the students are just getting a little bit older over time. And so there's less new kindergartners. I'm noticing that almost all of these, I think, all of them are elementary schools, right? On this list?
Yeah.
Right. That incoming group of kindergarten is nowhere near as large as that outgoing crop of fifth graders because we're starting to see some stabilization of the developments in that area or the residential impacts in that area. So it could be that if we just hold tight for one more year, it might resolve itself over time. Or if we look at the available capacity in nearby schools and bring to you assignment recommendations to provide relief using those seats that are nearby. So it could be an either or.
All right, that helps. So it
Or both in some
really, it
cases.
really is specific to the 25-26 school year. It's not as much of a projection.
Well,
Beyond
the
that?
numbers
Yeah.
here that we used to put them on this list was their 25, 26 projection. And then from there, we look at several years ahead of where do we anticipate them to be? Because again, a projection it's an estimated
And so
guess.
that's where
right?
that's kind of where you get
Yeah.
the blue.
And so what we look at is
It'll be over,
trends.
but okay.
Yep, so we look at grade level trends. So you're entering grade,
Yeah.
what's that trend leading up to the, exiting grade? Do that for elementary and middle, because we're really not looking at high schools for this, because you're not looking at calendar conversions for a high school. So basically, we're looking at elementary and middle.
Thank you.
And just on top of that point, I understand exactly where you're coming from, because I see Root and Lacey up there, and I'm thinking, are you really anticipating natural reduction in enrollment, or are they really just, be careful if you say Root in public, get a bunch of transfer requests, or is that just because there's several elementary schools pretty close to Root? So that's a big...
It's a little bit of both, right? I mean, so you've got some elementary schools that may be proximate that we're expecting a natural reduction, so that may open seats that we can use a reassignment at a later date, or it's that particular school may have it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
All right. So the next slide, I want to just kind of show you the CIP. Again, this is a review, but just for people to see what we have in the hopper that's coming down the line so that we can address some of these crowded concerns. We've got the 4 new schools opening in 25, 26. Hilltop Needmore is scheduled to open in 26, 27. Morrisville High School, which we don't really need to talk about high schools for this particular conversation. You've got Parkside Middle School, which can help with some crowded middle schools that were on the list. And then you've got Pool Road and Marshburn Road Elementary. And those schools will be pivotal in helping some of the other schools that we have on these particular lists that will provide some relief over time. All right? So then after we go through capped and overcrowded schools, then we'll look at, okay, what schools are not operating on a multi-track year-round calendar, but they also have long-term crowding concerns. All right? And if you were paying attention on the slide with the cap schools, you saw there was one school that didn't have a dock. That was Oakview Elementary. Okay? And so, yeah. Nope. Go ahead, 2. One more. Keep going.
No, that was it. You want to show the slide
Oh,
you're
yeah, go
referencing?
ahead.
Back to 3. There. So the
You got
top
it.
center
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Okay. All right, now back to 7.
Yep, 7 now. So Oakview Elementary is a overcrowded school, capped school, actually, that is not on the multi-track year-round calendar. It does have long-term crowding concerns, okay? It's projected to be 117% crowded for 25, 26. Its current base is projected to continue to grow per the 10-year forecast, and no additional support from the CIP is anticipated at this time. And again, the goal is to provide long-term stability for families, so that's why we're talking about this with you today, all right? So I put a black dot in the general vicinity of the base attendance area for Oakview Elementary, so you can see where it is. It's the bottom left of the screen. The map on the left you're aware of is our projected forecast for the next 10 years, and the map on the right is a projected crowding with utilization for the 25-26 school year. Again, red is over 110% crowded. Yellow or orange is overcrowded. Yellow is your sweet spot, 90 to 105, I believe it is. 90 to 100, thank you. And then white is underutilized at this time, it's under 90. However, when you look at this particular map, you'll see some white surrounding the black dot, right? To the south is Rex Road Elementary, which we recently just opened up. So we have expected growth coming in that particular area that will fill that school. And then to the northwest of the black dot, across US 1, that's that line that comes through and separates. That's the old Scotts Ridge Elementary, that's the new Pleasant Plains base. And if you can see the map on the left, you see the arrows that are surrounding that black dot. So those schools that are proximate that we could do a reassignment into don't have the available long-term seats for this particular school. And so we've landed on making a recommendation for Oakview to be considered. Not that we're making a formal recommendation, because we'll bring that to you in a board work session. But we'd like to start looking at talking more with the school system, staff, the public, to get some more feedback of some of the things we should be considering. But looking at the data here, we don't have any other alternatives to be able to deal with the long-term crowding for this particular school. And again, just to reinforce that we don't have long-term support, you've got your CIP, which we do not have any particular schools other than the ones we've opened up, Pleasant Plains and Rex Road, that are in that immediate area. And one more time, just the projected renovations, areas where we could gain additional capacity in the area. You don't have any proximate schools that would support Oakview at this time. So then that brings us to identifying schools that are operating on a year-round calendar but don't have long-term crowding concerns. And so this is similar to the conversations we had about Pine Hollow and Rollsville Middle School last year. All right. So these particular schools, you can see the black dot identifies where the feeder pattern of the school continues to traditional for grades 6 through 12. So that means it's an elementary school that's on a multi-track year-round calendar, and they feed to a traditional middle school and then a traditional high school. And one of the things I heard from you when we talked about Pine Hollow and Rollsville Middle is, do your best to try to align the calendars as much as possible. So when you're looking at conversions, consider the elementary if you're going to do a middle, or vice versa. And so when you look at that, we identified where do we have feeder patterns that are misaligned. Now, again, I'm going to say, this is something that it's going to become our norm because of the K-3 class size legislation. We are always going to have some elementary schools that are on multi-track feeding to a traditional middle, to a traditional high school. We can't get away with that because we don't have the ability to continue to build as many schools to put all our schools on a traditional calendar. Okay? But we're trying to find ways here where we've got multi-track year-round operating. We may not need it long-term, so how do we scale it down so that we can give those families that stability back? Then in the pink, again, the feeder pattern includes multi-track year-round middle schools. And so I'll just talk about Heritage Elementary and Middle. So Heritage Elementary is a multi-track year-round elementary. It's at 72.7%. It feeds to Heritage Middle School, which is multi-track year-round as well. Now, Heritage Middle School, I put that dot there for because they have a feeder pattern elementary school that's on the multi-track year-round calendar, Jones Dairy, that is not meeting this particular criteria. So we would not be able to convert Jones Dairy at this particular time because utilization is so high, and we have projected crowded growth coming to that particular area. So if you wanted to look at, hey, let's do a full sweep of the elementary and the middle schools and move them towards traditional to better utilize the capacity or the seats in the area, we would have to be looking at an additional reassignment. And that goes for some of the schools in the green as well. The projected too high to be converted at this time. Generally, 75% utilization will easily translate to 100% utilization when you go from multi-track to traditional, right? 80 is kind of like our almost threshold, because when you convert that puts you at about 105% crowded, and then that doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room if you have a lot of stability transfers and whatnot. However, looking at particular schools, Briar Creek and Sycamore Creek, I know Chair Hegarty, you had brought that up when we talked about Pine Hollow. If you were asking us to move forward with converting those to traditionals to align to the traditional middle school, we would need to do a reassignment in the area, another reassignment in the area to utilize the seats, because at 89.4% for Briar Creek and 84.8% projected for next year would still be a little too high for us to convert at this time. I'm not saying that we couldn't get there over time, but if you want to expedite that, we would need to utilize a reassignment in current years to get that done.
So I know this is for multi-track, and I did look at these slides before today. I was surprised not to see Oak Grove on here, but I was just surprised not to see them on here. So not to get everybody spun out about that, but is that something that would be potentially further out in 27, 28?
So Oak Grove, because of its location in southwestern Wake, is proximate to a high-growth area. And so if we're looking at reducing the number of new builds in a particular area for the district, we may need to utilize those particular seats. So I didn't want to throw them into the mix, because I think we may have some longer-term plans with utilizing those seats available to the southwest area.
Okay, thank you.
All right? And so if you go to the next slide, we landed on...
Real quick, sorry. Just, we're having to go down the chain of command here. Our chair and vice chair both ran out. I was going to ask you, so 5 of the schools you have up there are in the North Raleigh area, and 3 of them were attending Pine Hollow Middle School, or fed Pine Hollow Middle School, right? Briar Creek, Sycamore Creek, well, maybe 2. And then you had 2 more, I guess, Pleasant Union and Brassfield, that are, I guess...
They were calendaring in at one point.
They were calendaring in at one point.
Yep.
And I know we said we didn't have the attendance to justify multi-track year-round at Pine Hollow, and even going single-track, it was under-enrolled. But trying to think about calendar alignment, the other calendar, the other, I guess, year-round school up there as a middle, I think, is Durant, and that operates on a track 4 only.
Yep.
And we talked about, well, could those elementary schools that were feeding to Pine Hollow have like a calendar option to Durant? And the thought was that, well, no, there's no demand for it. But I'm just wondering, doesn't that, it just seems like it would be for all 5 of those, it seems like having a calendar option to a school that's already operating year-round, but it just doesn't have enough year-round students to justify a track that it could be a solution.
Practically, what we've done is anybody who puts in a request for transfer asking for that, we certainly can support that. The challenge right now is that it's a track 4 only, and they might be on track 1 or track 2 with the younger students, so that might be less attractive than just making the shift to traditional at middle school. Secondarily, we've talked a lot about offering transportation, which is what I think a lot of families feel like when you use the word application choice or option choice, and we just don't have the resources to add those routes into the system. But we are accommodating any families who are voluntarily asking for that. We are.
And historically, Pine Hollow came about because of families not wanting to travel the distance to go to Durant Road, so they were looking for a more proximate school.
Yeah, just think, now that that's no longer an option, I get what you're saying, that if it's an individual, one-off, kind of piecemeal approach, you can't really justify expanding the tracks. But if it were more formalized and people knew about it, and maybe there was a transportation option, maybe you could get, a larger, more voluntary move to that school for calendar alignment that might help efficiencies at that school, and then also help misalignment at some of these others. Just for the next phase, when you're doing the community meetings, if that's something you can explore and see if there's interest in families, it might be worth it.
We can certainly look at that. I think historically our data suggests that we don't offer that, because when you start opening it up to choice like that, who tends to make the choice for the year-round school as opposed to people attending the traditional calendar school? And it doesn't help balance the schools in the area. And so that's why I think, when we start looking at it, we know that calendar doesn't make a difference on achievement, right? And we know that families want proximate schools, so this is our best bet to try to give them proximate schools and give them that stability long-term. I know calendar is something that families, often may like to use as the reason for the transfer, but when it comes down to it, a lot of them will go to, it's about the reputation of the school. If I like this school, I will travel to go to that school further or not, but if I have it in my backyard, I'll just stay right here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So when we go to the next slide, so it'll just, basically, we start to talk about the schools that I don't need to do reassignments for in order to expedite them, looking at North Forest Pines and Pleasant Union. If you remember on the last slide, you don't need to go back, but I'll just highlight it. These are schools that have feeder patterns that continue 6 through 12. So North Forest Pines, they feed to East Millbrook, Wake Forest, and Wakefield Middle. And Pleasant Union feeds to Wakefield and West Millbrook. So by converting these schools to traditional elementary, this would give them that K-12 feeder pattern. They're also projected to be underutilized as a multi-track year-round long-term. Again, when you look at the map and you look at the growth in the particular areas, the growth, and I'll show it in another slide, the growth just isn't there long-term. A lot of it because these schools, their base attendance areas are up in the watershed, up by Falls Lake. So you're very limited with the residential growth that would be coming to that particular area. And then the projected long-term growth is not anticipated to warrant the need for additional capacity in that area. All right? So here again, I've got the two maps. I put the two dots up on the top. Now, that's not where the schools are located. That's about the middle or close to the middle of where their base attendance areas are. Generally, you're looking at in and around Falls Lake to the east and west and the north. For these particular base attendance areas. North Forest Pines is generally around like that New Light Road area, east and west of that. And then Pleasant Union straddles 50 north up by the lake, and then into that, I think they call it the Hurricane area up at the top there. All right? And so as you can see, the proximate schools all have additional capacity space as well. And so needing multi-track in this particular area isn't something that we're projecting long-term. So what happens next, right? And I know you're familiar with this, and so while we're not making formal recommendations, we are seeking your guidance to find out, okay, so do we want to move forward with which particular schools to start engaging the families? Because I don't want to start engaging families that we don't really have any intention of making any particular changes to long-term, or at least exploring the changes. So what we generally do on the next slide is we'll reach out to area superintendents and principals to talk with them about the potential impacts. And I'll be honest, I've already talked to the area superintendents, and I know that they've reached out to the principals. But we'll meet formally together, we'll talk through the data, and then what we'll do is we'll make appointments to meet with those staff at their staff meetings, and we'll talk to them. We'll provide a similar presentation to this, we'll answer questions. And then generally what we do is we'll open up a thought exchange for both the staff and for the public. And we'll invite all the families that live in that base attendance area. We'll send them the link and ask them to participate. And then we'll set up virtual public engagement session. We'll do one specifically for each school as we do this so that they can have their own undivided attention as we answer their questions. Based on what Board Member Rice had shared at our last meeting, was looking for more engagement. And Ms. Edmonds, you asked for more engagement with families. We'll work with our family and community engagement to make sure that we're getting that to all of our families so that it's accessible. And then we'll work, again, obviously with our principals who do a really good job with contacting all of their families. We'll make sure that we work with them individually to get this out to the families so we can get their feedback. And then eventually, we'll come back to a board work session. I think I'd like to know kind of when do you want something like this to happen? So what I think I've learned from when we converted from multi-track to traditional, doing it in 1 year is not ideal because staff, when you are working in a year-round calendar, you get 12 paychecks. When you move to a traditional calendar, you go to 10 paychecks. So there's a time period where you don't get paychecks. And so if your calendar is going to convert, giving them 2 full cycles of years, or at least close to that, so that they can prepare for not having those paychecks, I think would be ideal, and that would be something that I would recommend. So if we're looking to take any multi-track year-round schools and move them to traditional, I'm thinking anywhere in between now and I'd say late August would probably be an ideal time to give them the amount of time, the 2 full years roughly, so that they can plan accordingly for that particular change, should it happen. Okay? Generally, from a standpoint of traditional going to multi-track, they actually pick up a paycheck, while the paychecks after that month will be a little bit less, because they get 10 paychecks basically now spread out to 12. They won't lose an actual paycheck, and so they'll actually pick up a first paycheck before they would have gotten one in August. And so that is a little bit easier transition. However, with the crowding concerns we have at the particular school that we talked about, going from traditional to multi-track, I wouldn't suggest waiting. And so my suggestion to you would be is if we go through with some of this public engagement throughout the summer, and then, because some of these will be tracked out, we'll try to get some done in August when we get the families when they come back, so that they feel like we're not bothering them during their summer vacations. And then through the month of August, we can get the engagement done, bring it to you late August for potential recommendations, and then maybe an early September vote. Does that seem to fall in line with what you think you may want with regards to engagement and time for families?
Yeah,
Deal.
2 years, I think that's very
2 years?
generous,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone should know, should have had an
Yeah.
opportunity to see it, and then
Yeah.
if they do want to consider other schools, put in magnetic transfer requests.
And clarifying, the recommendations at this time would be for the 27-28 school year, so
Right.
not only would we be giving the staff plenty of leave time, we would also be giving families at least 2 application cycles
Right.
if they felt like they wanted to apply for something different, either through the magnet or transfer periods, so they'd actually have 2 cycles to start thinking about how they want to respond to any changes.
Yep. And so I only went through the actual criteria that we use for the, for step 6, right? I know in conversations with you, there may have been some other schools that you may be of interest of talking about. I'll open it to you now. If there's any other schools you'd like for us, it doesn't necessarily have to be for 27, maybe it's 28 and beyond, but you'd like for us to start engaging with and exploring a little bit more to find out how do we better utilize some of our facilities. So I'll open it to you.
Well, so the big one is that northwestern Wake area, where the X factor has been Parkside Middle coming on, and how that'll impact. You have West Cary that's under-enrolled, you have Mills Park that I'd argue is over-enrolled, crowding it, Austin Ridge. I still think space at Davis Drive and a few things there that we might want to look at in terms of, I know it's still a few years out before the middle school comes online, but we've talked about trying to have these conversations now. And then if there are other issues, Lufkin Road or some others, where if there's renovations planned in the future, West Cary renovations, do we open Parkside as a middle school? Do we use it as swing space to accommodate a renovation? Just sort of how all of that plays in, because there's a lot of different dominoes that how they fell could determine other decisions we have.
Okay, and that's something we'll bring to the CIP team and
Correct.
discuss that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other schools?
Actually, I do. We've had discussions about Durant Road Elementary, and has anyone, because of the trailer issues, and with an aging, or not aging, but just
Stable.
base, the base is aging, not the school, but the base is, and aging, and is there a justified scenario to look at making that school a multi-track year-round, and then bringing all the kids out of the trailer back inside the building? I'm just kind of thinking some possible scenario.
Okay. And I'll offer another one. We can continue to look at the trailers and removing potential trailers off the campus. Because if it fits the criteria where it's not a high-growth area, which it's not, right? And we may not need the additional seats because we may have proximate seats in the area, maybe we can look at expediting the removal of the trailers on the campus if we don't need them long-term. And we can certainly look at that. But what I'll do is I'll bring that to the CIP team and to the student assignment staff, and we can explore what options we have to address some of the concerns that you've shared about Durant Road.
I do. Willow Springs Elementary. Because they are a multi-track year-round school, it makes it harder they have a lot of, like, probably renovations that need to be done. So I don't have a particular answer, or I don't even know if I have a question. I just know that is it's a concern, because there is no time to fix all of the things that need to be fixed in that elementary school. And of the things that I named in the last presentation, those are all from that school.
So I'll give you this. They are on our, I think it's our top 25, is it still? They're on the top 25 list for our renovations for the CIP team to consider. And so that is a school that we have been looking at over the years. And so, when we look at our prioritization for this upcoming bond cycle for next year, I'm sure that'll be a school that we'll be actively discussing. I can't make any promises about when it may make it to the CIP, but it is a school that we do have on our radar. I've been to the school myself.
And, for Ms. Gordon, for your benefit, one of the things that we've had some conversations about, and we've seen the last few times we've put forward a bond, has been the balance between new schools and renovations. And even the last bond took maybe one or two proposed elementary schools that would have been in Western Wake, took them out of the plan so that we could renovate more schools. We've seen the deficits. We start with opening a new school, and it might be that rather than trying to chase growth, we spend more of that potential bond money taking care of the schools that we already have for the residents we already have.
Right.
And so that would give us, let's go deeper down that list.
If you look at the projected projects in the CIP for the next 7 years, just the new construction and additions and renovations, 75% of our money in the next 7 years will be spent on additions and renovations.
Sandy, can you go to slide 10?
Concerted effort to
Slide
reach
10?
it.
So slide 10 will show you the schools that we have listed in the CIP for the next 7 years that will be getting renovations.
And so, and for context, a lot of those schools were schools that we discussed for the last bond package, and at least what I think Cary High School, because before we had to choose between Athens Drive and Cary, but by making the change, we could pick both of them, right?
Yep. And East Garner Middle School.
East Garner, and was Ligonet too?
I think it was keeping East Garner and North Garner by shifting some resources, because at first it was going to be one or the other and not both.
So there's things that we can do in the plan to lengthen that list and get more schools on that list.
And that was a change in focus that we've done within the last,
2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
But then would that mean it would possibly push that out past 2032?
It would be the next year. It could be a project that would be added on as you continue to add another year to the CIP. So you're correct. It could be if it was one of the projects selected, it could be a 32, 33 completion.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to ignore the issues and concerns about the building right now.
I'm like, wait, that's not feasible.
There's definitely maintenance, schedules that go through and try to repair, because your buildings need to be functional, right? And so they'll continue to do what they can. They'll use life cycle projects in order to continue to upkeep those schools until we get them to this point where it's a renovation.
And what I try to say, because we added this slide in this year as a new way to show how renovations are impacting assignments and assignment decisions, what's still missing is the minor renovation projects, the life cycle projects that are, the ongoing work. There's still a whole nother line item of budget availability for those types of projects that keep the schools functional, opening, getting better, getting improved, so that by the time they get to here, they're still having a good learning environment while they're waiting. Because this, in your mind, you really need to think like tear down, rebuild. So,
or major addition.
Or major addition.
That's what my next question was going to be. So
the other list is a whole different list, and we can certainly get that from your team, right?
The print list is a partial renovation list, and we have taken that at a low level for some projects and a high level at others, just depending on the need of the school. But there are a lot of hands in the pot for the print money too.
Is there a way to get?
It's a good way.
I think they recently did a presentation on like 8 to 10 schools that they were looking to do feasibility studies on pretty recently. So that should give you a good idea of who's on that list. We won't forget about you.
Anything? Okay, well, I think this will, yes.
Well, one other, when you get to the new business piece, I have one quick thing. Mr. Hershey scooted out. I had talked to him about it before, and
Yeah, he had specifically asked if we could ask about this other
Okay.
business, so.
Yes, go ahead.
So just to share with you all, and I hope maybe others may be listening as well, at the June 24th work session, we will be bringing a slight change to the MOU that we have with Wake County for the core team. If you all may recall, last June, we updated it somewhat, and this is a continuous process, but this effort this time, as you read about it in Assembly, there are some very, very minor changes. The effort is to really put in writing work that we have been doing for the last year or two in terms of looking ways where we can both partner with new sites where it might be a joint use effort or opportunity, but also to further that relationship and put in writing our efforts to surplus property for other uses. In particular, conversations have been centered around affordable housing. And so we wanted to kind of formalize that effort, which we have already been doing. So that's something that we'll talk with you all about at the work session next 24th.
Great.
Looking forward to it. I don't think that there's any other thoughts.
Hold on, I'm just checking. Sam had mentioned one other thing I just wanted to see. Sorry, I hate to hold everybody up. Oh, yes, I did find it. There was an issue brought up about the Morrisville High School Stadium and whether or not the site would require that it would need turf versus natural grass.
We're meeting on that Thursday.
Yeah. Is that something you could get an update for the next Facilities Committee meeting?
Sure. I mean, I think I know where we're headed.
We have at least one interested board member from what I can tell, but he happens to be the chair. So.
So I think it's pretty clear what we should do, but we can bring that.
You don't have to spoil it now, but just know that there's some interest in
Sure, we can do that.
talking about it. Okay. All right.
All right, well, if there's nothing else to discuss, I think we can call this meeting adjourned.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.